So, you obviously got your mind control program. That started off. Did you expect it to be such a massive sort of overnight success?
No, not at all. The first show went out in December 2000, so it's over 10 years ago now, and or nearly, I suppose, coming up, over 10 years, and that was a one-off as far as I was concerned. And then Channel 4 repeated it, and it did quite well. So they repeated well. So there were a couple of other one-hour specials, and then the Russian Roulette was in 2003, and that was the first thing that kind of just put me above the parapet.
Because the Russian Roulette really was kind of the moment when you jumped into the public consciousness.
Yeah,
it caused an awful lot of controversy.
Yeah.
Were you thriving on that controversy? Did you do it for controversy's sake?
Oh no, I hate it. It's horrible. I think it's horrible. It's ridiculous because you do the things expecting a bit of controversy, but when it comes, it doesn't matter how. I think the problem is you can never really quite take an arm's length view of it, which I really try and do now. It's more difficult nowadays with Twitter and blogging and stuff because you read anyone and everyone's opinions on it, and they never think you're going to read it. At least if it's a critic or a review, it's written with a certain amount of, you hope, in sort of informed opinion. But Twitter, people just go, oh, that shit, and oh, he's a wanker, and it's just like, oh, it's horrible. So so no, it's bizarrely kind of. It can't not be upsetting, even though that's exactly what you kind of imagine would happen. It's one thing to know, yeah, this will divide people, or maybe hopefully 80% of people will really like it and get it, and there'll be 20% that won't, but that's fine because that's the nature of the program. That's fine until you realise that those 20% are the ones who tend to kind of fill the opinion pages of blog comment pages and Twitter, and then it's always horrible reading that stuff. It doesn't matter how much nice stuff you read, it's it's the one sort of horrible comment that's upsetting. So I weirdly, bizarrely, kind of don't like that very much. I don't mind the idea that the controversies cause. I think sometimes that's important. If you try and please everybody, you go mad and you can't do it. But I've had to find ways of just not actually kind of reading it myself, or just so I have a PR guy, and I say, can you just send me some sort of facts and figures about what percentage liked it and so on. And
yeah, because in your book Tricks of the Mind, you actually commented on how, as well as being a fantastic trick, it also was almost an experiment in voyeurism. And is it worrying that an awful lot of people tuned in for the sole purpose of watching you blow your brains out?
Yes, and I think that was kind of the point. It was around the time that the sort of whole reality TV thing was kind of really taking off, and nowadays it's trite to criticise it, but at the time it was a bit more of a comment, I suppose. It had more relevance then, and most of the shows they come from something like that. There'll be some sort of, like with The Heist was a show that came later, and it was really born out of if you didn't see it, it was getting sort of middle management, nice businessmen and women to commit what they believed was a genuine armed robbery in the street, holding up a security guard, and it came out of it. It started with a motivational seminar, which was really for me born out of, and again I'd sort of touched on that world with the sort of NLP self-improvement-y kind of world, and it just used to strike me that the self-improvement we're taught is all about selfishness. It's all about just sort of setting your goals, and if you don't have ambitions and a 5-year plan, you're somehow sort of failing. So you set your goals and you make that happen, and you make everybody else kind of fall into place. You make everybody else you persuade other people to get you where you want to go. And it just struck me as how is that about self-improvement? How does that make us any better as people? Presumably what makes us better as people and nicer and just improve us is things like kindness. But that's the opposite of what essentially is being taught of these things. So the idea of that being very close to kind of criminal activity, essentially it's just being selfish and not feeling guilty about it, was the start of that program. And similarly with the Russian Roulette, it was very much this kind of voyeuristic thing that was around at the time with reality TV.
Then of course you moved on to your Trick or Treat series, where you gave people either lovely experiences or rather nasty experiences, including at one point making a nice sweet girl kill a cat, if I remember rightly.
Or not. No, she didn't in the end, but it was yes, it was. I don't know if you saw it. It was the thing of go on.
Is there any line you won't cross for a fantastic illusion?
Well, always from day one, this is particularly, I think, important in light of the recent experiments that I've done. There's a big priority about the welfare of the people that are taking part, because I think if you take a lot of shows, especially those kind of reality talent shows, and I've known quite a few people that have been involved in them, just to give you an example, I'll be careful not to name any particular shows, but you probably get what I'm talking about. there's one big reality TV type talent show program, and of which I know a few people that were on, and one guy was talking, he says you turn up and their PR guy sits down with you, or woman in this case, and says, look, everything's going to come out in the papers about you. Everything is going to come out in the papers. Let's just get this out of the way. Just tell me every weird, sordid secret that they could find out about you, just so we've got it and we are ready if that stuff comes out in the papers. So he spills his heart out, all these embarrassing secrets to this PR woman, and that's then what she then goes to the papers with. Because that program, it's all done has a deal with the Sun, and that's how the information is then fed. And all those stories that you read about are basically coming from the mouths of the people that have taken part. And it's horrible. It's absolutely, it's a fucking disgrace. It's horrible. It's embarrassed to be on TV. So shows like that appear very kind of nice on the surface can often just, the last thing they're thinking about is welfare. So for me, I don't have a TV. I don't particularly enjoy watching TV. There are some, I get DVD box sets and I do all that, but for me, I just kind of wanted to do stuff that was, that people taking part in it was, it would be that they'd really enjoy it. And even if it was something that was quite dark, that it would be exhilarating for them, and that is a big thing for me. So, and in terms of lines that get crossed or sort of controversial areas, it's not about that. It's if the person taking part in it is taken care of, and if it's right for them and means something to them and all the rest of it, and those things are in place, I think the rest of it's fair game. I think the problem is where it just crosses just lines of taste. A big line of taste, I think, is the person's experience. Because you can't do something that appears to be cruel and actually have it cruel. You can do something that might appear to be reckless or dark, but then you've really got to make sure that they're okay. And like one of the things we do is they always go through like a psychological sort of evaluation. We have independent psychologists that will do interviews with them. Now, of course, it has to be quite elaborately done because the person doing the interview doesn't know what it is we've got in store for them. They might not even have, might be that they mustn't know that they've even been chosen for it. So these things have to be quite elaborately constructed. There's almost like a separate making-of show for some of these things, because it is quite interesting how we kind of preserve the reality for the people that take part, whilst making sure that they're suitable for it. So yes, that's kind of a long-winded answer, but that's the priority for me.